So we just got one of the most defining moments of this arc in the My Hero Academia anime. With the introduction of Eri as a character, and just seeing how Izuku and Togata interacted with Eri / Overhaul, it sets a tone. Just as how we saw what happened in the previous episodes with Overhaul's confrontation with the League of Villains, this scene sets a tone with Izuku and the heroes, because now, for the very first time, Izuku has experienced something that he truly has never experienced, but every hero probably at one point of their career as a hero experiences, and that is failure. To explain, Izuku in that very moment, when he saw Eri, this innocent young little girl, shivering in his arms, so close, he could literally grab her and run away with her to get her away from the madman that is Overhaul. Even if we don't understand the story, we definitely know something horrific is happening with her and Overhaul. And the point is that Izuku saw a little girl terrified, scared. She was someone that obviously was trying to cry out in her own way. She even told Izuku and Togata, please do not go. Which basically meant that if they go, she's going to be casted in the darkness once more. But in that brief little moment, when you see Overhaul dragging Izuku and Togata into the alleyway, into the darkness, he was about to undo his glove. And we already have witnessed firsthand what Overhaul is capable of. We know that he is capable of basically disintegrating someone into just a bloody mess. We saw it within this episode, but also a few episodes back. So we know what he's capable of. But however, Izuku and Togata have no idea what he's capable of. They had no idea of the danger that was literally looking them right in the face. And so, in that moment, when you saw Overhaul undoing his glove, and he looks back at the heroes, Eri looks at him, and she jumps out of Izuku's, arms and all that, and basically gets right near Overhaul and goes along with him. She becomes very cooperative and does not argue anymore. In that moment, to basically explain those emotions, Eri, a little girl, very young as we can see, gave up her happiness to save others. She didn't want the people around her to get injured, and so she was willing to sacrifice herself for the others did not potentially die, because she knows obviously what Overhaul is capable of. So when she jumped away from Izuku and Togata, she was basically saving them. And honestly, she probably did, because even though Izuku is our MC, if things would have proceeded, he potentially could have died. Because, once again, heroes always are at a disadvantage against every villain they go up against. For instance, most villains will know important heroes. For instance, when you think of Endeavor, everybody kind of knows Endeavor. They know about his, abilities and all their signature attacks, etc. So because of this, you have it to where, heroes, they're well known. And so villains can cooperate and kind of maneuver and make plans to counter said hero. So because of that, heroes are always at a disadvantage. Their quirks are exposed to all eyes. Everybody can see what they're capable of. However, villains are on the other side of the spectrum. Besides just having, heroes where they have to constantly protect people, they also have their information in public. But villains are the opposite. They don't have to worry about the public. They don't have to worry about how many lives they need to save. They don't need to worry about property damage, etc. And they don't have to worry about their quirk really being exposed, because most villains are really not going to have their hand really displayed unless they're a very popular villain that everybody knows about. But even then, if it's a big villain, they're most likely going to be captured regardless and thrown into prison. So most of the time, any villain that they're going to encounter, they're really not going to know what they're truly capable of, what their quirk really is. So that leads to a lot of dangerous matchups, basically. And so in that moment between Togata and Izuku looking at Overhaul, they could have died because there was no witnesses. They would have been disintegrated. Nothing would have been left. That is the scary part about that. So yes, it makes sense why they had to back off. However, the point still stands is it was a failure. Because in that moment, Izuku cannot do the very thing that he's always wanted to do, save people. He wasn't given the option to save Eri. He couldn't reach out his hand, grab her, and run away with her. Because if he did, the entire operation that Night Eye and everyone else has been setting up would come undone. Which is kind of the next point I want to get into, a perfect segue. So, to kind of clarify what Night Eye was saying, haste makes waste, he was pretty much trying to say, is at this point in time, nobody here, me, Bubble Girl, Togata, and you, Izuku, have the capabilities of saving that girl and also saving everybody else and, basically undermining the consequences, getting rid of the consequences. Only person that's really capable of something like this will be someone that is near the top. Example, All Might. So, if you're not someone on the level of, let's say, a top hero, there's just no way in that moment you could have grabbed Eri and gotten away with the consequences, because at that time, they would have probably died to Overhaul, but also since Overhaul's not necessarily clarified as a villain in this point in time, even if we know he is, he could actually press charges, and the entire operation could come undone. So, there is a lot of things here. So, not as like, nobody's in a position to just be hasty and go after a villain before we have the official evidence. It's kind of how real life works. When you think about real life today's society, you have it to where you have undercover cops, etc., that get into an operation with a crime organization, and even though they know the criminal operation, what's going on, etc., they usually don't instantly turn in the criminal operation, even if they're undercover and they got the evidence, is because they try to get as much evidence as possible before they can even get rid of the higher-ups, get rid of the people that are really a part of the entire operation. So basically, here's a perfect example to kind of summarize in the easiest way possible. Let's say, right now, okay, Izuku was to grab Eri, and let's say they did grab Eri, and somehow in some form or way they found out that Eri was being mistreated. There could be some way that Overhaul could get out of it, and basically say that everyone that was a part of his group maybe was villains, but he wasn't. He was completely excluded, and he was not a villain whatsoever. He would get away. So the main root of evil, the main people on the top, would get away. So that is the example here, is that there is nothing that they could do, and that's why some FBI agents or undercover agents have to wait for a very long period of time, even if they discover it right off the bat, because they want to grab everybody. They want to make sure everybody goes to jail/prison and they don't get out. So yeah, that's what Night Eye was obviously trying to express. They did not want everything that's been laid down before them, the groundwork, to come undone. So let's talk about the atmosphere of that scene, especially with Overhaul and Izuku. That scene was very tense, because it really wanted to show the danger that is Overhaul. Because Overhaul, we know his ability now. We at least know some of its functionality. We know that he basically can instantly kill someone if he lays his hands on you. So, it's a scary moment, especially in any given moment. Togata could be on the chopping block, Eri could be on the chopping block, and even though we know Izuku can't, because we know he becomes the greatest hero, it doesn't necessarily mean someone like Eri or Togata could not die. So, that's a really scary thought. So, in any given moment in the way that situation was, they could have died because of that moment of how Izuku interacted. And you do really have to enjoy the quick thinking that, Togata came up with. Basically, he didn't give away Sir Night Eye's name at all to Overhaul. He was really quick on the uptake, and it's like, okay, we're just students, we're just training, we don't really have an agent, like an agency that we're really a part of right now. We're just going from agency to agency, just getting as much experience as possible. Pretty much saying that they're newbie heroes, they don't really know what they're doing, and so they weren't throwing any agency under the bus. Because, example, if Izuku and Togata would have given up Night Eye's name, then that would have meant that Overhaul would have been able to kind of skirt around Night Eye's agency and figure out a counterplan to get rid of him. All Might officially reveals everything. He tells Izuku the truth. He tells him what he's been hiding from him since the very beginning, and it really puts the whole all for one versus one for all Might into perspective. It really gives a whole new layer of meaning that I don't think anyone at this point in time understood until they watched this episode. And that is the fact that in that fight with All for One versus All Might truly believed he was going to die. He thought that it was his final moments he was going to have on, in the world. Like, he thought he was dead. He legitimately thought that he was going to die, but he kept fighting to the bitter end, which really just goes to show what type of character All Might is, what type of person he is, to really look death in the face and not back down whatsoever. He charged All for One, thinking he was going to die, and he fought to the bitter end. Because, I mean, imagine if things would have been a little bit different and All Might would have died. What if he would have died in those final moments? Imagine everybody's face seeing All for One come out on top and killing All Might. That would have truly been a scary moment. So, because of just the context we found out within this episode, it adds a layer. All Might was willing to die. He was willing to die because there was nothing else he could do. He knew that he kept running to the finish line, like he said in this episode. He was always going to keep running. He was going to be someone that was going to basically lay down the torch to someone else, like pass it down to Izuku. He already had it ready, and he knew once that fight was done, it adds another message when he says, "You're next." He was basically saying that this is the end for me, because now the only thing left is that I'm going to die, and so it's up to Izuku, basically, to carry on the torch, because All Might's pretty much at his end. He will die very soon. So it's a really sad, it's like really, really sad just to find out more meaning to that fight now, and what All Might was really feeling, and why he stopped smiling, etc. It really just comes full circle now. But, to go a little bit further, All Might basically says that because of Izuku and, him, having his entire change and how he's been getting better, but also what Izuku's mother said, trying to make him watch over Izuku as a teacher, All Might tried to find the will to live, basically. He's tried to fight back against his destiny, his fate, so to say, and he doesn't really want to back down to it. And it's honestly inspiring, because the entire message of All Might, the reason why he's running within this episode to get in shape and healthy again, is because he doesn't want to give up, because he doesn't want to actually die, because from what Sir Night-Eye said, is that All Might would die a very gruesome, brutal death, and I can't imagine how brutal and gruesome a death would be. There's so many options, basically. And obviously, there is a lot of animosity and a lot of villains that have things against All Might. Think about this. With how many people he's put away, not just people dealing with All for One, but just so many other countless things that's happened throughout the world, All Might definitely has a lot of enemies. And because of him being in a weakened state, he's just ripe for the picking. Someone could just come up, even a weak class villain could come up and just end him in an instant. So it puts him in a lot of danger. He's definitely not someone that is strong anymore. So him trying to get back in shape is basically him saying, I don't want to lie down and die. I want to fight back. I don't want what Night-Eye said to actually come true. I want to fight back against what is destiny. So it's a really just amazing moment. It really gives a lot of characterization and development to All Might's character, and I think nobody really probably realized that until this episode, of just how much All Might truly has changed inside. Like, he slowly has changed and his actions has been presented, but we just didn't have the full picture until this episode. And also, the reason why he never told Izuku is because he didn't want to shackle Izuku to him, which is kind of ironic when you think about the main message that Izuku's had for a very long time. He always felt like he was bounded by All Might. For instance, he always felt like he was shackled to All Might, and he was pretty much a carbon copy. That's all he was. He was just a, All Might 2.0. Because his fighting style, to his moves, and all of that, he just basically, everything about him pretty much looked like All Might. He was just trying to copy him, but he was never really his own man. And you've seen throughout constant changes of Izuku's character, he's tried to unshackle himself from All Might's shadow, and become his own man, his own fighting style, his own type of hero, etc. And he's made changes. And All Might didn't want to have another shackle attached to Izuku. For instance, his burden, his death on Izuku's back. Izuku had to protect him, etc. He did not want that. It kind of explains a little bit of Night-Eye's mentality now, why he acted like he did towards Izuku, because most likely whatever he saw for the future, even if it is very vague and he doesn't have a full picture, it most likely is something that had Izuku in it. And so he knew who would be Izuku's successor, which is probably why he was so dead set against Izuku being there part of Night-Eye's agency, and why he wanted Izuku to kind of back down, but also why he's truly trying to push Togata as All Might's successor, because he just wants to undo the very events that he saw within his vision. So yeah, I mean, everything's kind of coming together now. You kind of understand why Night-Eye has acted like he does, why All Might has acted like he does. Now Izuku is really, he's burdened by the fact that his mentor might die in the future, but also the fact that, is he worthy of picking up the mantle and carrying on the mantle of One for All? There's just a lot of, things that Izuku needs to think about now, because it's deep. It's a lot of stuff. So, yeah. That's pretty much about it, though, when it comes to this episode of My Hero Academia. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, because for some reason, even if you click the subscribe button, you don't always get notified. So if you want to get notified, hit that bell icon. And with that, Chibi out.